What's up, everyone? Episode 3 of WandaVision just dropped on Disney Plus, so I figure it's a great time to talk about it. One quick disclaimer: in this video, I'll be talking spoilers for the first 3 episodes of WandaVision, so you have been warned. This episode starts off in color with Wanda pregnant, basically kicking off where the last episode ended. The whole set and vibe of this episode changes as now it has advanced a decade, and it's more styled for a 70s sitcom, as that seems to be the trend for this show, where it's going to advance a decade each episode, and next episode will probably be 80s. We'll see, obviously. So essentially, the plot for this episode is Wanda being pregnant and all the complications and stuff that comes with that. And in this episode, her pregnancy is advancing really fast, as from the beginning of the episode, she's barely pregnant, to the end of the episode, she's having the babies. But alongside that, there's a number of weird things that happened in this episode. Like at one point, Vision's outside talking to Wanda, and his neighbor is cutting his the grass or the hedge, and he starts cutting through the wall. I thought that was very weird. Throughout this episode, there's a lot of stuff like that. So back to the plot of the episode, like I said, it really is about the complications that come with Wanda being pregnant. So at one point, she has a contraction, and like the whole power goes out in the neighborhood. Then at another point, the same thing happens, and like water starts coming down from the ceiling. I don't know if that was like the pipes bursting or what that was, but like water started coming down. So like a few minutes after that, when the water started coming down, Wanda actually started having the babies. So Vision left to go get the doctor. Meanwhile, at the house, Wanda's friend comes over. I don't recall her name. She comes over to borrow a bucket for the water that's falling from the ceiling. But the part that got really weird was when she was over there, she sat down to talk to Wanda, and essentially like a bird, like a flamingo type bird, I'm not sure exactly what bird it was, but it started walking around for whatever reason. I have no idea why. There was a bird there, but there was. So essentially the plot ensues where Wanda's trying to make it so she doesn't see the bird. Anyways, while her friend is there, Wanda is forced to have the first baby. Vision returns home just in time to see the first baby, but then Wanda starts having a second baby, so she's having twins. So Vision leaves again. I think he was going to get the doctor again, but as usual with the episodes of WandaVision that we've seen so far, the episode gets really weird at the end, where we kind of get all these reveals and what's happening and why the show is so confusing. So Wanda has a second baby, and she names it after Quicksilver, whatever his real name was. I can't recall it right now. And then Wanda's friend, when she hears that she named him after Quicksilver, and she says that he was his brother, she says, "He was killed by Ultron, wasn't he?" So that was super weird. And then what was equally as weird is while Vision was looking for the doctor, he was talking to the neighbors who we got introduced to in the last episode or episode before that. And they start talking about the neighbor that's in the house, and they say essentially she's new to the neighborhood and that she has no family, and they kept repeating that. Meanwhile, Wanda's friend, or Wanda's neighbor, the new neighbor, tries to correct her mistake, I guess, but Wanda's getting very suspicious at that point. She starts questioning the girl's necklace, where it's like a sword. And then back outside, the neighbor starts saying she came here because, but his wife stops him before he can say anything. And then Vision comes home, and Wanda's being very suspicious, and the neighbor has disappeared or left. I wasn't clear on what happened to her, but I'll get to that in a second. And as I mentioned, then the episode ends with the new neighbor. She gets thrown through this like invisible wall outside, and all these soldiers or police surround her. Another change was the screen went from full screen to widescreen, so essentially it got out of the show and into the real life. So overall, I really did enjoy this episode. It's probably my favorite of the series so far. We've only had 3, but I did enjoy it. This episode, and really the entire show, it tries to be kind of like simple and funny, but at the same time very complex and confusing. And for me, that concept has worked very much. And then when you compare this one episode to the previous two kind of just offered all these questions, and they were very confusing, where this one, I felt like it kind of told more of a story, and we got more answers as to what's happening. And that's probably going to be the trend throughout the series. As we get more clues to what's happening, we're going to kind of able to unpack what's happening. And as I mentioned, it felt like we got a lot of answers to some of our questions. Like, to me, the ending implied that this whole situation Wanda's in is she's in some form of fake isolated neighborhood that's being broadcasted on some television type thing. And all the neighbors are actors trying to sell this idea to Wanda of this fake reality. So I thought this was very similar to The Truman Show, if you ever seen that movie with Jim Carrey. In that movie, they're kind of like in this like fake reality where he doesn't know what's happening. And I feel like this might be going somewhere similar. We'll see. But the biggest question I still have of this show is whether or not Wanda is aware of what's happening, or if Vision knows what's happening, or if Vision's even alive. I really have no idea, but it seems like Wanda may have been the one to kick the new neighbor out because she was acting very suspicious towards the end. It seemed like the show may have implied that, but it certainly may not have. As for what's going on with Vision, like I said, I really have no idea. There's not a lot of clues. Last 2 episodes, it seemed like he kind of was in on what's happening, and for this one, it definitely seemed like he was out of the loop of what's happening. So my guess would be that he doesn't know that they're in some form of like simulation type fake reality thing. But obviously we're super early into the show, so it's really hard to predict some of these things. Anyways, like I said before, I'm really enjoying this show. For me, every single episode has been better than the last. And I'm very much anticipating episode 4 next week. And like I said before, the real strengths of this show have been how confusing it was, and that's one of the reasons I do look forward to this every single week. However, I do think the show won't be for everyone. I do think some people might find it kind of too confusing to the point where they don't care about what's happening, or some people might find it kind of boring. But, personally, I like it. I'm very much enjoying it, and I cannot wait to see what happens next. Alright, and that will do it for my thoughts and review of episode 4 of WandaVision. Thank you so much for watching, and if you did, consider hitting the like button, subscribing, and commenting down below. Anyways, have a good day, and I'll see you next time.